everyone, my name is Oddimus Prime and I'm joined by my illustrious co-host Primetime Moff. And whether you are watching us or indeed listening to us, we welcome you to our weekly show, Transformers 84 to 24, 40 years of rolling out. A show that in the year of the brand's 40th anniversary, we look back and delve into the vast history of the Transformers. If you're new to the show, we'll be covering each year of the franchise in its own weekly episodes with special episodes throughout the year. So please like, subscribe, and turn on your notifications to ensure you do not miss anything on this incredible journey. Hello, Moff!
Hello, Simon. How are you?
I am doing good. So now we appear to have reached 1992. A year that definitely had some Transformers in it.
Oh, just barely.
Yes,
Just
very,
barely.
very barely.
And only really if you're in the UK stroke Europe, like really seem to hit kind of if you're certain parts of the world, there wasn't anything new in '92, which is
No,
bizarre to think of now.
it is literally the last year of Generation 1. There is no comic, no new comic. There's no new cartoon. There is a literal last dregs of a toy line. And there is nothing else at all. It has reached the end of this iteration, which is, I mean, it's natural for any brand or toy line to come to an end at some point. And as we all know, it does get reinvigorated and re-energized into something which we'll talk about next week. And obviously, it's continued every year, pretty much in the last 40 years. There's been some new iteration of Transformers,
Mhm.
but this is the last year of Generation 1, and it's weird because it's only 8 years after it started. And when you think about G1 and it just seems like this thing that went on forever,
Yeah,
but it
it
didn't.
really wasn't.
But yeah, so 1992. Let's just have a quick look through the media. Oh, the CD of Transformers the movie,
It's a good
the
point.
soundtrack
Yeah.
was released. So up until then, I assume it was on cassette, but it was the vinyl version that everybody seemed to have. I know some friends of mine had it on vinyl. Going around a friend's house and listening to a vinyl record of Transformers the movie, that was fun. But yeah, this is the first time to
You're
see
older than me. I don't remember that. I wasn't that old, obviously.
No, I think to be fair, that's only ever happened once, and it was probably after the CD had come out anyway. But gosh, yeah, who knows? So yeah, so this year we had some toys, very, very few toys. Although had a look at this again, uh, less of them or fewer of them were reissues than I first thought. Um, but yeah, so we'll get onto that in a second. Um, Japan had a few figures. The US had no new figures that year. And some of the figures that were European versions did come out in Canada, I believe. So that was about it. So let's have a quick look at what the
Mhm.
toys were that actually were released. So let's start with the Autobots. We had the Turbo Masters. So what do you remember or know about the Turbo Masters, Mr. Moff?
Nothing. Well, no, I don't know. No, nothing.
Well, this is going to be a really long episode.
So, at the time, I said this before. Like I really switched off. Pretenders really did it for me, and I just didn't then go looking for Transformers. I thought they were done.
Yeah.
I picked up a couple of the GoBots classics, but I thought Transformers were kind of done, or they were done in my mind. Going, I don't think these are things I'm going to pick up anymore. It didn't really appeal to me. So I didn't. I didn't. At that point, to be fair, 92. Oh, probably. let's be honest, I think at that point we had just got new bikes, just probably at the end of '91, and all I did that summer was just run a bit of a bike. Like you're getting 12, kind of turning. I turned 12 that year. It wasn't my thing, but I did pick up later. I probably got more out of this line at Carbot sales than I ever got out of any other year. Um, so I do have fond memories of this toy line from being younger, but just not at the time. Like, just definitely did not pick anything up at this point, and I don't remember seeing any of them on shelves. Don't have any experience of them on the shelves, which is a shame because like as much as we're very very minimal releases this year, some absolute stonkers on this and stuff that even now when I see them, I just think, oh, that's a cracking. And you were talking before we started about colours, and we'll talk about colours a bit more when we get to next week's episode,
Yeah.
and why we like certain things. But I was at the NEC Toy Fair just the other week, and there's a Skyquake sitting, and it just as soon as I seen it, I'm like, I forget how much I love that. I had picked up a Skyquake, I picked up a Stalker, and I had something else. Oh, Rotorstorm. I'm trying to think what else it was. I got all three of them at Carbot sales, and all three just I loved. I don't have them anymore, and they are on one of many lists that I would like to pick up. But
Mm.
I thought they were brilliant, and that's before we get to the big boy of the year that just is something special about. But these small range, and I think it's interesting when you then have a small line or a small batch of bots you can then kind of drill into them. If we think back to some of the early years, you almost get overwhelmed. You know, you
Mm.
think looking at that the first year with Headmasters, and you look at that catalogue, it could be easily overwhelming or overlook toys, and there's going to be toys in there that become hidden gems because they're overlooked. When you go to a year like this, and there's a lot less, it's easier to then kind of take your time and look at them and go, well, actually, there is some cracking Transformers released in 1992, especially, well, obviously on a UK basis. What about yourself? Do you have much memories of these? Did you have any of them?
I didn't. A friend of mine had. Oh, I think it was Skydive. It was one of the Predator jets. I can't for the life of me remember exactly which one. Yeah, Skydive. It was the purple one. Um, that was the only figure from that range I experienced at the time. I remember seeing them in the shops, and I remember thinking that they were kind of cool. But most of the exclusive ones, I don't really have a lot of recollection over. I think I remember seeing them in Toys R Us, but that's about it. I don't remember seeing Thunderclash or Rotorstorm or Stalker, or I recall seeing Skyquake, but that's about it. And yeah, that was this when the yellow Constructicons came out?
Is that not the next again year? I could be wrong.
I
I think
mean,
the
they
Constructicons come out this year, but I just can't remember for yellow. I'm just trying to check. I'm on Transformer Land just now, just to not have a look.
yeah, I think they
So
might be the GT
might
ones,
not,
to
to
be
be fair.
fair.
I think they are. Uh, yeah, I don't see them. No, I think
Oh
they were
no, no,
the
sorry.
G2 ones. They're not
Yeah,
just reissue ones at this point. They're still kind
I,
of Go Box Classics because we'd got the other combiners years before.
I'm
Is
just
that right?
looking now.
As I say,
The Constructicons were released and they were yellow. These ones they are slightly different to the G2 yellow ones, but they were yellow. I remember seeing those in the shop. I think I saw them on holiday. I was like, ooh, because I don't think I'd actually got hold of the green ones at
Tonkatron.
that point. Yeah, very much a Tonkatron. But the ones that I remember seeing were the Rescue Force vehicles. The drill particularly stuck in my mind because it was a different version of drill horn, which my mate had, but missing all of the fun stuff. So it's a bit of an odd one that a big chunk of this year's line. So each Autobots and Decepticons both got 4 new small figures, uh,
Mm.
one medium and one large, both for Autobots and Decepticons. And they also got a secondary line of reissue repaint figures. The Constructicons for Decepticons, so the yellow ones that we just discussed, which I'm not sure came with the Combiner kibble or not, but that's by the by.
Oh, I think you're right. I don't think they did. No, I think you're right. I don't think they actually did, which is interesting,
Uh,
isn't it? I think I remember reading that or hearing that at one point.
yeah. They had no combiner parts, and also were just Constructicons on the packaging, rather than actually named, which is an odd choice. So you had Decepticon combiners that don't combine, and then the Autobots, you had Autobot combiners that not only didn't combine, were Decepticons in the Japanese toy line, and also were missing their Breastmaster gimmick. So they went from being really, really awesome combiners with a secondary gimmick to
Yep.
just standard bots, and only four of the set. So it was
Weird.
Leo Kaiser. It was Leo Kaiser, wasn't it? Yeah, I always get my
Yeah, yes,
name.
because
Yeah,
Leo Kaiser and Road Caesar were Road Caesar
yeah,
was
yes.
it the year before Road Caesar's reprint came out.
I always think of
Um,
yeah, yeah. Uh, so yes, you had the buggy, drill, jet, and tank were their amazingly named figures. So missing at least one of the. Is there five in Leo Kaiser? Or is there six? I forget. But yeah, missing them, and also in very, very almost G2 coloring.
yeah,
Drill was bright yellow. The jet was white and red, so sort of reminiscent of Skyfire, but not massively.
yeah,
The drill was grey and blue. Sorry, not the.
same.
Yeah, the plane was blue and yellow. The buggy was blue and white, and the other one, the rescue vehicle, was well tank, but it
Yeah.
wasn't a tank because they got rid of the guns and gave him little claws for reasons. And yeah, he was interesting. Uh, but yeah, they were interestingly coloured. But yeah, so I remember seeing those in the shop and thinking they're a bit duff, to be honest. So yeah, then if we go on to the actual Autobots, the Turbo Masters, they were all newly designed vehicles. They weren't a repaint of anything else. And honestly, they're pretty cool. There's
Mhm.
some really nice. They're very much of that era where the Transformers had become simplistic in their design, but
Yep.
there's some really nice touches, and they all came with the missile gimmick, which is odd as far as gimmicks go, in that it was just a launcher, which most old Transformers came with. But you had all of the different vehicles had a launcher, but they had a generic type of missile that all of them had. So
Yep.
you've got like two or three with each one. So I suppose the theory being if you lost a couple, it wasn't the end
That's
of the
when it's
world.
easy to get another. No,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah. But the two most interesting, well, the bigger ones rather, were the most interesting ones. Rotor Storm, who I didn't even see until way, way further down the line, is a great bonkers helicopter.
Oh,
Uh,
beautiful, beautiful colorings.
oh,
That
amazing!
that that. I remember seeing it on the Cabot sale. It was in a box, and I just was like, "Oh, what's that?" And it was the colors. I didn't know it was a Transformer. I just thought the colors were cool. And then when I realized the Transformer, I was like, "Oh, I'm having this." And I remember the guy saying, "Well, I've got two more." And then I found Stalker and Skyquake, and I just the colors on them just oh
Yeah, we can't not talk about the colors. They are just supremely early 90s.
90s. And they
And
really are. They're just wearing a shell suits, Transformers and shell suits.
exactly. That's exactly what they're like. I mean, the Turbo Masters and the Predators, they all had some pretty good coloring on the basic figures.
Yeah.
The neon green or yellow or orange cockpits, the neon green missiles for the Predators. Um,
Mhm.
but then you had I'm going to go through this in this order for no particular reason, but we'll start with Stalker, who is very, very reminiscent of Double Dealer,
Mhm.
in
Mhm.
that he's a ICBM launcher with.
Fans hobby have jumped on that idea.
Oh,
Like you're
he's
saying
just
that, and it's 100%.
yeah,
Fans
yeah,
hobby
yeah,
have done their versions of these toys, of that toy, based on their Double
yeah.
Dealer. But he's brilliant, like a blocky bot with
Yeah.
something beautiful about him.
He's just so, and the colors are just amazing. That sort of bright purple, the sort of garish teal for the blue, and then the bright green for the missiles and all of his cockpits and stuff like that, and then gold on his chest just to purely kick it up a notch on the garishness. And both him and Rotorstorm had a gimmick where you could look through part of the vehicle and get like a target array that you could stick the other vehicles on to do like a targeting thing with the missiles. And I forgot the missile launchers as well were pretty generic as well. They were the same for most of the figures.
Yeah.
But he's amazing, and yeah, we'll get on to various repaints of him as they crop up later on. But as you say, yeah, Fans Hobby have done an amazing version of him recently. Well worth trying to track down, but he was a exclusive, so good luck with that. And then we had Skyquake, who again, similar coloring. He's a giant slab of a plane, and then a giant slab of a robot, with all the
He's
posability of.
he's
Oh,
huge. Like
he's
it's
enormous.
what is it? I was just trying to see what it was. 33 centimeters tall. Like 33 centimeters
That
tall,
is
over a
enormous.
foot tall.
Yeah,
He is just imposing, stunning, gorgeous colors, like
yeah,
absolutely gorgeous colors in person. It's one. This is a point where I think for many people like myself, you might not have seen it originally. Looking at it on the picture and it's nice. These are things that when you see them in hand are breathtaking. Like the
mm,
colors just are beautiful. And I think, if it's all right, I would like to just kind of point out that when we talk about these two, and then we've two more to talk about in the Third Masters, this is where Andy Cousins really came into his own, in my
mm.
opinion. These are out of the stuff that Andy Cousins did, and he did a little, and he did quite a lot in '91. He did some in '92, more in '93, and then some G2 ones. These are the four best that he produced. Like absolute stunning selection of toys. Um, and as you say, they get reused and reused a couple of times. Well, Skyquake gets reused once, twice, no, twice. Stalker gets reused twice, and then the other two have reuse as well. So they're one. It's not as if they're bad molds. Like
No, no.
okay, some of the other ones don't get reused, but these molds, the four that he produces, which is the other two, I'll just say them. So Rotor Storm and Thunderclash are just four genuinely amazing G1 molds and deserve to be acknowledged and experienced by Transformers fans that have not kind of touched this era.
Yeah, no, they are just fantastic. And as you say, they get reissued fairly often. Well, I say fairly often. They get reissued a couple of times, in different guises, and they're just such really nice. And one thing I really like about this era as well is it's not recycling old characters. They
Mm-hmm.
haven't quite got to that in the same way they
Yeah,
have in
yeah,
future ranges, but also there's I mean you even got it with Stalker becomes Soundwave in
twice.
Machine, well, yeah, has been Soundwave, and Skyquake could easily have been Starscream or even a
Yeah,
version
at
of
this point,
Megatron or
100%,
whatever. Yeah. Um,
100%.
And obviously, the other two could have easily been other characters. Obviously, Thunderclash could very easly have been and does become an Optimus Prime, but they did shy away
100%,
from that.
yeah.
I don't know whether or not it was something contractually that they weren't allowed to make another Optimus Prime for whatever reason, or whether or not they wanted these to be sort of independent, separate characters. I think because the line wasn't continuing in America, that they probably either had more free reign or they were restricted into that they couldn't use existing characters.
I think Andy Cousins said that the joy of it was that they got a bit of freedom because it was kind
Mm.
of like, not that nobody cared, but it wasn't quite the same pressure it would have been had you been working at Hasbro in 84, 85, 86. It was almost like, well, just throw things at it. And there's a couple of examples he talked about of toys that he wouldn't get the chance to do under previous circumstances. No, not
Mm.
just Transformers and other toy lines as well. And I think that's huge. I think that the creativity you can see in there. Thunderclash, you say, I think had that been released 3-4 years earlier by Hasbro, that's Optimus Prime. It's not
Yeah,
getting anything else. It's not going to be called Optimus Prime. It very unlikely it would be a Autobot if it was not Optimus Prime, potentially
yeah.
being a Decepticon. But oh, what a glorious toy. I saw it once in person, and I remember it was breathtaking. I was like, I want this toy, and I've never picked it up. I actually think I'm probably better picking up the Machine Wars one because you don't have the GPS issue. But
Oh, yeah. We haven't spoken
it's
about
just gorgeous.
GPS yet, have we?
Oh no, let's not. Shh. I've got toys with gold on it. I just don't talk about GPS because I hope that it does. I wonder if you talk about GPS, it starts spraying. It's like Candyman.
Yeah, I do feel we should explain at least vaguely what it is. So GPS, if you aren't aware, is gold plastic syndrome, which is to do with the type of plastic that was used for metallic colored things, particularly gold, and its ability to crumble after a few years. You could have it perfectly in a box and never touch it, and it will still turn to dust for absolutely no
Oh,
reason. I've seen it far too many times. I have a few figures that have got that've got the GPS pruned material, and I don't touch them. But anyway, let's not discuss that any further in case we upset the GPS gods. So Rotor Storm and Thunderclash, we've spoken a bit about Thunderclash, but Rotor Storm again, it's just a superb figure. He's a really, really nice bot in both modes. The helicopter looks amazing. The robot mode is definitely functional. There's not masses and masses of kibble, which is just really nice. And he just looks stunning with that red cockpit and all the blue.
oh,
He's just gorgeous. Um,
the blades are beautiful. The
mm,
red cockpit on the silver is just
yeah,
stunning, absolutely stunning. I always loved it. And then it obviously gets a wee bit of a role in Last Stand of Wreckers, and it made me love the toy even more. The one I have or had, I still have it somewhere, um, was not in great condition, and always, mm, it's always one that kind of, if I see a decent one at a decent price, I think I'd buy another one because it was so pretty,
yeah.
so pretty, and deserves to be in good condition. I think that's a challenge with some of the older stuff. If you've not got a good one, you maybe don't appreciate how nice it can actually be.
No, exactly.
But this podcast YouTube show is costing me money because honestly, my list of stuff I would like to pick up at TFN just gets longer every week. I'm thinking, going, oh, I quite like that. Oh, I quite like that. And I think that the interesting one of it, and I think now, especially with Andy Cousins passing, I think how lucky I am. I got his print of this design for Stalker, which
Mm.
as much as it's lovely as Stalker, for a Soundwave fan, it becomes two versions of Soundwave. So to have the man who designed that mold have his print, it was very special and holds a wee special place in my room. But just beautiful, beautiful bots that I continually look at them and think these would have been stellar bots had they been released 3-4 years earlier. they'd have fit in perfectly well. They, as you said as well, the colours fall into what we're going to come across next year and the next
Yeah,
again year, sorry, and G2 they could fall into that as well. But they land at a point where the toy line is on its arse, and a lot of people didn't experience it, which is a real shame. And I think as much as the molds are redone and other ones, the is it King Atlas? I'm just gonna check, make sure I'm right. I'm sure it's King Atlas Skyquake. It's
yeah, okay,
colored to, yeah, it does, and that is beautiful. Like the Machine Wars Starscream's really nice as well. The King Atlas is gorgeous, but it still doesn't hold a candle to the original coloring.
no,
And
no,
and it's really the same with Stalker, even though it's two sound waves. That first colouring is there's something special about it. Thunderclash is cannot be topped. I don't think they could have done anything with the colouring, the box art, everything about Thunderclash is just gorgeous. The pink on him, oh, I
yeah,
don't think he could have been topped. And I think the Machine Wars Optimus Prime's nice. I actually do really, really like it, and I think I'd probably pick that up to experience the mold without the stress of GPS. Like that's the
yeah,
if people are sleeping on this and kind of always want to Thunderclash, the Optimus Prime version gives you that mold without worrying about it falling to pieces in your hand. But so the all four are repainted, and sometimes you know yourself, you get a repaint and the repaint's nicer.
mm,
I don't think that's the case in any of these.
no,
The four of these, for their beautiful 90s craziness, are just gorgeous.
yeah. There's just something quintessentially 90s about this whole range. I won't say more so than G2 because G2 just ramps it up to a bajillion. But yeah, Thunderclash is amazing. And as we've said, it's difficult now to get one that isn't going to just crumble. There's unfortunately with him, there are too many parts that will ruin the whole toy if they
Yeah.
break. So some figures you can get away with the odd bit not being perfect, but his launches are gold. They break often. His feet, it's not good. But yeah, he just looks amazing. It's that white, that head, the character they gave him in IDW, where he's this just
Oh,
like ultra
yeah.
heroic dude. It's just yeah. Awesome character in later stuff, and just a fantastic looking toy. But yeah, and one thing we didn't really touch upon last week was that the line had actually ended in the US the
Mm.
previous year. So they had a couple of like odds and ends, but they didn't get the Action Masters. They didn't get Micromasters in the same way we did. They didn't get any of this stuff, and some of the reissues that came along. So the G1 line was only 6 years in the US, and then they had 2 years of effectively nothing before G2 came along. So yeah. Anyway, I think other than we can probably spend another hour fawning over these wonderful looking toys, I think that's probably about it for 1991, two,
I
whatever
think
you
so,
were on.
yeah.
um, yeah, so right, what's your bot of the year, Mr. Moff?
I am going to go with Stalker. Because he becomes, and I could have picked a Skyquake. I was very close between two. Stalker becomes Soundwave, and I actually really, really like the mold. I think I'd like to own all three colours of the mold. Um, More so now, I think actually after having spent time talking to Andy Cousins about it,
Hmm.
it became I kind of want to kind of pick one up anyway. And then with his passing, I think they're definitely on my list for TFN. Stalker's just beautiful. It just feels really G1, really G2 as well, almost. That just in that nice, perfect kind of meld into it. And we're going to talk about G2 next week, but I
Yeah,
love those neon colours. So Stalker's
yeah,
my pick, sir.
it is definitely a case of these figures. They are the actual bridge between G1 and G2. The figures feel very G1, but the look very G2, and that is definitely something worth pointing out. I'm going to go with Thunderclash, not because he's the most like Optimus Prime, but because
He's better. Prime. And that's the end of the show. Forever.
No.
We had a good run.
No, with Thunderclash, he is just an amazing figure. I have got him. Well, I've got Machine Wars Optimus Prime, so I have experienced the figure in that sort of way, and he's just amazing. He's got such a fun, gimmick-filled trailer. He looks awesome, and his colors are just spectacular. I will admit that if I hadn't gone for Thunderclash, I would have also gone for Stalker because those colors are just so good. But I'm not because that would be boring if both were for the same one. Anyway, that about wraps things up for 1992. It was a bit brief, although we still managed to waffle on for longer than I thought we would have managed. So thanks for watching or listening. We will be back next week with 1993 and the birth of Generation 2. Please do remember to like and subscribe, or even leave us a review on your podcast catcher of choice if you so wish. Yeah, that's it from us. So goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me.
Have a great week. See you again soon.